Today on African American Legends, we'll revisit some of our past shows which highlight the accomplishments of so many outstanding people in our community. These shows reflect the issues and concerns that have affected the African American community. We hope that you enjoy these shows. African American Legends highlights the accomplishments of blacks in areas as varied as politics, sports, aviation, education, film, and theater. We will explore how African Americans have succeeded in areas where they had been previously excluded because of segregation, racism, and lack of opportunity. I'm your host, Dr. Roscoe C. Brown, Jr., and joining me on today's program are the legendary Ossie Davis and Ruby D. Good friends, and Ruby and Ossie, how does it feel to be a legend?
Awful.
Yes, I tell you, I can't accept it. It's that designation, a legend, when it seems, it's something one looks back on, I think. I think about legends and statues going together. And you know what happens to statues, don't you, after a while?
Yeah, the birds mess with them.
Yeah.
But the reason that I might have an objection to the use of legend is that we live in a time where the difference between one generation and another is great and growing wider. And we don't need even those lovely phrases if the end results of the phrase is to further separate us from the young folks. I don't mind being a legend, but people look at a legend and they put you out of their lives. No, I'm still here. There are a lot of things I want to do, so let's leave the legend stuff off for the time being and deal with each other about the problems we face.
Yeah, that's probably the reason why I keep running marathons, so that they won't catch up with me.
Exactly.
Over the years that you two have been in show business, as it were, things have changed a lot. Now, how have they changed most for African Americans?
Well, I would say they've changed most, maybe in terms of visibility, in terms of access to opportunities that we didn't have before. Speaking about the profession in which we are involved, the theater and films and television, when we came along, there were not many job opportunities. There were not many actors available. I mean, there were not many roles available for African American.
Now, was
filmers.
that because the roles were stereotypic roles for blacks, like being a maid or a waiter?
Partially,
or
yes.
is it because the general public wasn't aware, willing to be aware of the fact that African Americans play roles like anybody else, ranging from bankers to doctors to bus drivers?
Well, I think the one is tied up with the other. I think the American public, led by those who create public opinion, didn't really want to face the fact that we were human beings, because there were certain consequences that flowed from that, or that should flow from that, that they weren't ready to deal with. It was best, from their point of view, not to rattle the boat, to keep black folks back there so that you don't have to do, you got other things on your mind. So a part of that, I think, led to the kind of writing that excluded us or misrepresented us, and the kind of presentation that excluded and misrepresented us.
But now, for example, you've written several books, but writing a new book about just how we feel about ourselves. Now, more people are willing to hear that. Is that because there are more African Americans watching TV? You know, we watch more TV than anybody else. Or is it because the whole society, white, black, Latino, wants to know about us?
I haven't done a study on it, Roscoe, to tell you the truth. And I'm one of these people sometimes loath to make generalities as if I'm an expert on the subject. I speak from this narrow perspective of myself as I've been able to observe. And as I read, I'm recently rereading, for example, Du Bois's Souls of Black Folks. That was written in 1903.
I read that
1904.
periodically. That builds my soul.
And as I read it, but for little, it could almost apply today. So the degree of change is too slight, I feel, for the journey that we as human beings have to make in terms of our relationships to each other. That's qualitatively. Quantitatively, I think there is a higher visibility because there are more people in the world and there are more of us. But the racist principles are still in effect. I wish I could say otherwise. And as I reflect on writers, for instance, like Jackie Robinson, like Sammy Davis Jr., like the stories of Lena Horne, I like the Ann Petries, writers like that. I see that they're not. That the story has not changed that much. I never had it made from Jackie. Why me? All of them talk about the same racism that has existed since we've been in this country, and so that's a little disturbing. There are more of us, and certainly things. I love the fact that I love Alfre as an actor, Alfre Woodard and Angela Bassett, and all the new people that are coming along as actors, and Denzel, and they're marvelously talented. And so I'm pleased to see that change, but I'm a little dismayed when you can count all such people on two hands, maybe.
Could I jump into that? I think there has been changes, and a part of it is due to the fact that we who were invisible, according to Ralph Ellison for the longest time, by our own action, by our own capacity to agitate, forced ourselves on the public's attention. Well, assuming that America had a concept of us in the old days which left us out altogether, then all of a sudden here we come on stage, then America says, well, they certainly ain't who I thought they were, but then who are they? So there is a hunger and a curiosity, but at the same time, America still doesn't want to open the door too wide. You gotta fight your way in even when the door is open to crack.
You know, I was thinking about that the other day. I grew up in the 30s, and Jesse Owens and Joe Louis, Paul Robeson were my heroes. Jesse Owens and Joe Louis got more public acclamation from the white community because it was in athletics, whereas Paul was in theater and human rights and civil rights and so on. And I was just wondering, what has changed today that allows us to have heroes and heroines like the late Barbara Jordan, or like
Carol Moseley
Braun, or Colin Powell,
Constance
people
Motley.
who are not necessarily in the athletic range, and then of course people like Ossie and Ruby, who cut across the spectrum. You are both known as much as civil rights leaders and opinion formakers as you are outstanding actors and actresses. Now, what has changed around that?
Well, one of the things that's changed has been that the world and its expectations into which we came had an assignment to which all of us had to respond. Paul Robeson, Jesse Owen, Joe Louis, Reuben Ossie, and all of us, there was always the question of racism, always the question of we are not free. We were born into the struggle whether we wanted to or not, and each victory we made was not only a score on the board, it was also a token for our inclusion. When Jackie Robinson hit the ball out of the park, it was more than a ball. We all were lifted by that.
When Joe Louis knocked out Max Mellon,
exactly. We were all there. Now, one of the things that's changed is that the very success of our struggle and making ourselves visible and putting laws to protect our rights on the books has changed the nature of the struggle. And a lot of young people today are born into a world where that sense of struggle is not there. Therefore, they wander around because history has not given them the assignment, or they don't know
That's it.
that the assignment is there.
I think
Ruby and I still know that the assignment is still there. The fight still goes on. Struggle is the definition of our lives. We got to help the young folks understand, that their success and when they hit the ball out of the park, they too must be striking a blow against a common enemy.
I think when I think about this word leadership and what the capacity of young folks to struggle in the same ways, I think they know a great deal more and sense a great deal more than we suspect, because I do believe that when a leader, when you call the leader, one component of leadership is power. And neither Martin nor Malcolm nor had the kind of power to affect change. And the kids are looking at that. And they had the power to get themselves killed, they're saying. So, these people, they come into our... So I think that we have to really examine, when I think about Martin with power to change things, and he wasn't able to do that. We weren't... Our leaders are those people we elect and hold responsible. We can kick them out of office. We expect things from them. But the kind of leadership that even to accept the word leader, black leaders, until they are capable of affecting change, and has been the case in some rare instances. But I think we really have to look at that concept of leader and leadership. And I think young people, they might not know by word and jot and tittle, but they see the effect.
But see, this is one of the beautiful things about history and talking about it and living it. As you know, I was a Tuskegee Airman. Tuskegee Airmen, black pilots in World War II. We broke the shibboleth that said that blacks couldn't fly. And we did it in the best possible way with the most outstanding fighter group in the 15th Air Force. The movies and the documentaries about that now are coming to these young people. It's just amazing where I go somewhere and they say Tuskegee Airmen, they get up and they applaud and so on, because they understand that we broke a barrier. They understand that Ossie and Ruby broke barriers. They also understand that collectively we make a contribution to the movement. And you two in particular are always there when there's a struggle to be fought. Your legendary, it is legendary, eulogy for Malcolm is just so well known and so well appreciated. Your aphorism, it's not the rap,
man,
but the map. It's not the man, but the plan.
Right.
And if our folks can internalize that every day, we would make a lot of struggle, a lot of progress. Let me talk about show business. Ruby Dee, you're a Hunter College graduate of the great city of University of New York. How did you get in show business?
Show business, I think about that. I'm really not in it. I'm around it. I'm on the periphery. I'm doing all right for a color girl.
All right.
That's being in show business. You see now in these great contests of films and actors, we're not sufficiently represented in terms of the prizes we win, the films that we do, the monies for which we can get to do all kinds of films. We're allowed still to do certain kinds of films. So, but you asked me how I got started. The start is I treasure, because I started going to the American Negro Theater in Harlem, located in a library on 135th Street, where the Schomburg Center is now, and where I met people with like ambitions working together, where I went to school, in a sense, to find out a little bit who I was. It was that peripheral education that became the bloodstream in my life and work, and that I'm still trying to bring center stage, not only in my own life, but in the consciousness of the country. So that's how I got started. And I frankly feel a very short distance from the starting line.
I think we all do, particularly as we get older. What about you, Ossie?
Well, I've always wanted to be a writer, and I wanted to write plays. And one of my professors, Dr. Alain Leroy Locke at Howard University, when he found out what my ambition was, wondered whether I had enough experience in the theater to write plays, because he found that I had never seen a play in my whole life. So he suggested that, look, when you finish college, go to New York. There's a little group that's starting up called the Rose McClendon Players with Dick Campbell and Muriel Ron. Tell them I sent you, and if they accept you, get in and act, sing, dance, direct, hustle lemonade, paint scenery, do everything you can. Then you will learn about the theater and find out ultimately whether you have the qualifications to write for the theater. So I was so excited I didn't stay to graduate. I grabbed the train, came to Penn Station.
You left Howard University.
Left Howard University, went to the Dick Campbell, the Rose McClendon Players, a library on 124th Street, joined the group. That's how I got into the business, and I was never able to get out since, but that's how I started.
Of all the many roles that the two of you have played, which is your favorite? I'll start with you, Ruth. Which is your favorite?
Well, I think I like Ludibelle Gussie Mae Jenkins, because it's a role that my husband created, not necessarily
That's
for
right.
me, but it's an in-house product. I've enjoyed lots of roles. I'm not an absolutist, but that one I treasure because it was from the home shop.
Okay, Reverend, what's yours?
Well, I have to be egotistic on this and say I too enjoyed more than anything else playing Pearlie Victorious.
That's right.
Both on stage and in the movie that we did. Yeah, that truly was for me.
And I really should have said Angel Angeline, a character that I wrote in a musical called Take It From the Top.
Yes.
I wrote the musical, and I'm still hoping someday to get it on again. It's Angel Angeline, I like that role too.
Now, both of you worked in Spike Lee's films.
Yeah.
What about your roles were absolutely fantastic. I really enjoyed them. I felt them. First of all, I know you, but I felt them. How do you feel about those roles? What Spike is trying to say and how you were portraying it?
Well, let's first speak about Spike.
Okay.
Spike is the only director I know that offered me 4 roles. I was only able to take 3, but nobody else keeps coming back with job opportunities.
Says something about access.
Yes, so Spike is my man because he gives me employment. Having said that, I'm particularly impressed by Spike, by his energy, by his bravery, by his chutzpah, and by his determination. Even as a filmmaker, his imagination and his capacity. What I want for Spike is that he somehow also has access to the history and experience that we had coming in. The young folks today do not have access to those memories or to those experiences, and therefore they see things slightly differently. I'm not saying that what they see is wrong. What I'm saying is, if they saw some of the other dimensions, they would give us, I think, an even more powerful interpretation. I say, for example, as much as I like Spike's Malcolm X, I want to be here when he comes back 25 years later and does it again.
Does it again.
Then he'll know.
What do you think about that, Rudy?
About what?
Spike and
well,
the kind of things he's saying.
He's my role model. I find myself increasingly going to young people for examples of how to move forward in the things that you want to do and like, and the fact that he, by hook or by crook, She's Gotta Have It was his first project. That he just did it. And I'm enormously impressed by that, because I'm expecting African American women, particularly, to begin just such activity, to somehow get the doors kicked open. And so I'm a great admirer of Spike's. He's a very young man, and just being black, though, just distracts from a kind of philosophical maturity, because you don't have time for it, I just staying alive and in I call it a brute way, because even in the arts, there's a certain rugged and ragged and determination that you have to move forward. Unfortunately, it's that same kind of thing that you have to stay alive. So that's why
I see you empathize very much with young folks, and I hear it in many of the things that you say. And since we were young once, and we were confronting a different kind of struggle, a struggle of segregation, even a struggle of humanity. Can black folks be a chemist? Can black folks be a lawyer? Can black folks be a ball player? Can they be a fighter pilot? These young people live in a different world. We know we can be all of those things, but we have the invisible ceiling, the glass ceiling, and then unfortunately some of the young folks have developed some self-defeating behaviors. Part of it out of frustration, and part of it possibly, as you say, out of a lack of knowledge of the history and in terms of how do you move things ahead.
The program, don't forget, one of the key components of racism is to teach you how to destroy yourself. Right. So, I mean, we will continue. We say, well, these kids are killing each other. We're blaming them for what you see, if we are what we eat, you know, if we are the food we eat, our children, and we are also the images that we see constantly from the time we come into this world. We become those images.
What can we do to change that?
Yes,
I know you try, but what are some things we can do to change that?
First of all, I think we as adults have to take a look at ourselves. I think we have to do some backtracking and apologizing. I think we have to do some heavy reaching down, heavy sacrifice stuff. You know, we have to pay attention. We have to take some hard licks in the process, because we had a moment, we had an opening where we could have closed the doors against and protected our children, and we didn't. We bought into youth, we bought into individuality, we bought into
psychedelic drugs,
yes,
and a lot of things.
And what is success, and what and we abandon our spiritual thrust, which I think I'm not saying that, and we forgot about our children in the important ways. I'm not excluding even myself for that. I'm feeling that we gave them enough to survive on, and enough to grow and build to a different. I look at my daughter now, my daughter Nora, my other one Hester. What marvelous mothers they are in a conscious kind of way. I wasn't conscious as a mother. I was lucky, you know. These questions and things that we talk about are far more. I think that we need to look at them differently. We now, as adults, need to lay ourselves out on there. We need to rescue our children and our youngsters forcefully, well, no matter what it takes, our lives even.
In part, that's what the Million Man March was about. It should have been Million Men and Women, but it was about looking at ourselves, dedicating ourselves to our community, etc. But Ossie's aphorism comes in, it's not the man, it's the plan. And unfortunately, we haven't done enough planning behind what transpired there. But the words that you have just uttered reflect the thoughts of many people in my generation, and some 15 years younger, who are really concerned about our youth. African American youth, 40% of them live in poverty. Over half of them born to single mothers. Not that there's anything necessarily wrong with that, but what does that mean in terms of the structure? What are we doing in our community to help build that structure? And I happen to believe that the arts are one way of helping us to see that and build that. What do you think about that, Ossie?
No, I would agree with that. One of the problems I think young folks faced, and we weren't able to help them, is that we gave them a world where materialism was the pervasive value, and we didn't help them and understand how to deal with that. You said a minute ago that now the young man can be anything he wants to, and he can make all of that money. So we taught him how to qualify for the money. we haven't taught him what to spend the money for. We have not laid before our young folks a moral assignment that is worthy of their fullest development. We let the commercial, mercantile values of the world engage their attention. And around us is a society and a culture that constantly says, consume, consume, use, do it now. Don't save, don't worry about that. Consume, enjoy, consume. You know, and our children...
sometimes you folks help us to do that. Those commercials you do are really great.
I know.
Pick up the telephone and call your friend.
But the point has to be that if I know that I'm doing that, I must then make absolutely sure
That's right.
that I do that for other purposes and other causes.
And of course you do. I was joking.
To give the young folks a sense of purpose, a sense of destiny, some idea of where we are going, and a better reason for living than the material values is absolutely indispensable. We will come to a halt as a civilization, not only black folks, but whites too, unless we can rise above the material swamp into which we've allowed ourselves to sink. Consume, 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 eat, nosh, go and go. Don't stop, don't think, don't put off till tomorrow, sex or whatever the urges are. Now, do it now. You know, we've got to change that.
I don't know whether you help with the writing of some of those commercials, but some of those commercials are really good in getting that message across. What are you doing for your family? How are you relating to your family? What are you doing for your community? It's almost as though it should be a contract with every performer, ball player, television specialist that says, when you get this money, at least 10% of it will go back into your community, both with the money and yourself. It's more than just giving the money. People of visibility have to follow the example of Ruby and Ossie and give of yourself to the community.
It is true.
Yeah.
But there's also another formulation, very simple, very crude. A couple of years ago in the Forbes magazine of the richest entertainers in the world, if you looked at that list, there were 5 or 6 black entertainers headed by Cosby and Oprah and all of that. And roughly they grossed $360 million that year. Okay, now for every dollar grossed, an agent always gets 10%. That meant that somebody got $36 million servicing the needs of those people. How we need to make available to our young people access to that $36 million. We got to come up with a way whereby we not only do the thing and get the money, we got to sequester a part of that for our own. Affirmative action begins at home.
This has been really a great conversation, and we'd like to continue to talk about the legends, Ossie Davis and Ruby Dee, but as you both have so beautifully articulated, the past is prologue, and we need to know our history in order to look forward to our future.
Amen.
Glad to have Ossie Davis and Ruby Dee on African American Legends today.